A word of caution. This episode features a description of murder that may be disturbing to some listeners. The national parks are beautiful places to explore, but it is also easy to get injured or lost while doing so. This is especially true in the North Carolina wilderness. Hikers get lost, visitors have fatal injuries, and some are still missing despite numerous searches. We'll discuss the case of a hearing-impaired Charlotte resident who traveled to Linville Falls one afternoon and has not been seen since, a man who went missing while foraging with a friend in an area he knew well, another man who walked out of his home one afternoon and never returned, and an elderly woman who was murdered in the same area after firing her caretaker. There is much to love about North and South Carolina, but the two states have also had their fair share of violent and senseless crimes over the years. From murders on the Blue Ridge Parkway, in the heart of big cities or sleepy college towns, and along the coastal waters, some of these stories may be new to you. Some may have happened in your town. Some may involve people that are still missing to this day. But all will leave you remembering to always be vigilant about the people you meet and the places you go. I'm Renee Robertson. Please join me for Missing in the Carolinas. Episode 105, Missing and Murdered in the High Country. My family recently returned from a vacation in the high country area of North Carolina. The high country includes a wide array of places such as Beech Mountain, Boone, Blowing Rock, Linville Falls, West Jefferson, Sparta, and Wilkesboro. We had a fantastic time and made sure to fill our days with outdoor activities. We did a relaxing trip down the New River on inner tubes, visited Grandfather Mountain, and hiked several different local trails. My husband went to college in the area and was excited to show us some of his favorite spots. One of those spots was an area called Hebron Falls. One of the ways you can access Hebron Falls is through Julian Price Memorial Park in Blowing Rock. It was while hiking into the falls, which we had kind of a hard time finding, that I slipped twice on mud and fell flat on my back, knocking the wind out of myself. Luckily, I was fine, but on any of these trails, you run the risk of serious injury, no matter what your skill level, if you don't take the appropriate precautions. When looking at information about this area on the website All Trails, I found the following review. We are a couple in our mid and late 60s who walk almost every day, usually around 3 miles. This trail was definitely not easy for us. Roots and rocks everywhere, and a fairly steep descent down to climb up back from the falls, which we could barely see, way off in the distance at the top, beyond a bunch of huge boulders. The signage is not great either. If you are wanting to do this particular trail, don't go over a bridge to the right a little over a mile in. Go to the left instead. We made a mistake here, which added a mile to our trip. It was a great workout, and we don't regret doing it, but it was definitely moderate to hard for us, and given the sort of disappointing falls view, we will not do this one again. I think this is a good example of how a planned hike can take an unexpected turn. You never really know what you're going to find or how well-traveled or remote an area is. Another place we hiked that's more strenuous was Table Rock near the Linville Gorge wilderness. We all consider ourselves to be in good physical shape, but there were still areas where you had to really watch your footing on the steep incline and keep an eye out for muddy or slippery rocks and roots and moss. Even the trek up to Grandfather Mountain, which you have the option to drive up to if you prefer, had a steep incline full of large boulders and areas that could become slick after rain. Visiting all these places, some for the first time, made me think of the news reports I often hear of people getting lost on the trails or suffering serious and sometimes fatal falls. For example, in late October 2021, a group of 23 hikers on a church outing got lost in the Linville Gorge. According to a report by the Linville Central Rescue Squad, the group had become separated and 2 members were able to hike out of the gorge and call for help. That evening, Burke County Emergency Medical Services joined forces with the Linville Rescue Squad and Mountain Rescue Team well into the night. When the group was found, none of the hikers were injured, but they were cold and hungry due to the late hour. They had gotten turned around at the bottom of Linville Gorge and were not equipped with jackets or any warm clothing. Temperatures in the gorge had dropped into the high 30s and low 40s that evening. Rescuers set up a fire once they found the group, helped the hikers get warm, and offered them food. The High Country Press reported on June 3, 2021, 30-year-old hiker Michael Riva of Forest Park, Illinois, died after he fell approximately 80 feet into the gorge. He had been hiking on a trail called Rock Jock. He was found dead 3 hours after the Burke County Emergency Management officials received a call about an injured hiker. It took the rescue crews several hours to extricate him from the scene, as there had been pop-up thunderstorms on the Rock Jock Trail all throughout the day. The Rock Jock Trail is described as a rugged and remote 6-mile hike along Dogback Mountain in the Linville Gorge wilderness. Just a few months prior, another hiker had died after a fall near the Babel Tower Trail in Linville Gorge. The news outlet offered this accurate description of the area where so many visitors are prone to injury and, unfortunately, as in this case, death. The Linville Gorge is part of the Pisgah National Forest. It's formed by the Jonas Ridge on the east and Linville Mountain on the west, and is bisected by the Linville River, which drops 2,000 feet into the valleys below. The area is covered by a dense hardwood pine forest and a variety of smaller trees and plants. In 2021, the North Carolina High Country experienced a record number of visitors to the area, and the Linville Rescue Squad said it had broken records for the number of calls it responded to. On Saturday, October 15th, 2022, a hiker fell approximately 45 feet at the top of Hawksbill Mountain, about 105 miles northwest of Charlotte. It has an elevation of more than 4,000 feet and rises over the Linville Gorge. It's considered a strenuous hike and has steep terrain and numerous rock formations, according to a description by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Burke County Emergency Medical Services were dispatched to the scene and discovered the hiker had lost a great deal of blood. But getting the patient to safety proved to be a difficult task. High winds at the top of the mountain made a helicopter extraction too dangerous. Instead, the rescue team used ropes to set up a horizontal raise in order to bring the injured hiker back up to the top of the mountain. Mountain Area Medical Airlift, or MAMA for short, landed nearby at the Brown Mountain Overlook. Flight nurses hiked in whole blood as there were concerns the injured patient would need a transfusion before making the trip to the closest trauma center. The medical team on site determined they could make it out of the area without the transfusion. On May 17, 2022, a 67-year-old Charlotte resident named Frances Colette Apperson left her home and drove to the Linville Gorge area of North Carolina. She was reported missing on May 21, 2022. When local authorities pinged her cell phone, they were led to the discovery of her car off Old NC 105. The silver 2013 Hyundai Santa Fe was found in a parking lot near a trail leading to Linville Falls on May 30th. The car was covered in pollen. Frances had family living in the area, so they searched for her along the trail leading to the falls. The McDowell News reported that on June 2, 2022, they found a small angel along the trail leading to the falls. An identical angel was found in Frances's car. At the same time, Todd Collette, Frances's brother, told WSOC-TV that their family had hiked Hawksbill Mountain together before, but he wasn't sure how familiar Frances was with Linville Falls. They also didn't know why she would have planned to visit the area alone. Rescue crews from the Burke County Rescue Squad, the Burke County Sheriff's Office, North Carolina Forest Service, and Burke County Emergency Management responded to the scene to aid in the search. They also used a drone to search secluded areas along the falls. When I was reading about Frances, I got confused because her case is still active in NamUs, but I found an obituary published for her in April of 2023. I noticed a YouTube channel called Ryan Finds Truth, which helps find missing people in the southeastern United States, was planning an upcoming search for Frances, so I reached out to him. Ryan, who works with his wife Jen, did confirm he recently visited the area with Vernon Schertz to do additional searches in the area where Frances went missing. Her family did publish an obituary, but would still like to find Frances's remains in the event she had an accident or passed away while in the Linville Gorge area. They were able to meet up with Frances's brother Todd while they were on site. Ryan said the channel plans to post videos of their search in the next few weeks, so I'll post a link to that channel in the show notes for anyone interested. From Frances's obituary, I learned she had become deaf when she was only 6 weeks old. She attended the Clark School for the Deaf in Northampton, Massachusetts, and later attended the North Carolina School for the Deaf in Morganton, North Carolina. She also went to Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C., and earned a degree in American history. She loved to garden, read, cook, and spend time with friends and family. She worked as a teacher's aide before becoming a stay-at-home mother to her 2 daughters. Frances had a passion for volunteering and was active in local community service organizations. When she went missing, Frances stood 5 feet 2 inches tall and weighed around 130 pounds. She had shoulder-length hair and brown eyes. Because Frances was deaf, this could have prevented her hearing if anyone was calling out for her during the initial days of the search. I wanted to share a few safety tips as part of this episode. My husband and son have both been heavily involved in scouting for years, so they are very familiar with what types of gear to pack even on the shortest of hikes. I'll admit on our vacation there were a few times when I wasn't as prepared as I should have been on our day hikes, either by not wearing the right shoes or carrying enough water. One of the main things I want to point out is that you should not rely on your cell phone to be a flashlight, map, or means of survival when you're out in the wilderness. There were many times when we lost cell service simply driving between the various towns. You may not have reception at the moment you most need it. The National Park Service also recommends the following. When planning a hike, know what your physical limits are, meaning what is your experience level with hiking? How many supplies can you comfortably carry in a backpack? Have you hiked in this type of environment before? Are you able to go at higher elevations? At 8,000 feet, you run the risk of developing altitude sickness, which can be potentially life-threatening. And are you hiking alone or planning to go with a friend or family member? Pick the right trail for you and your group, meaning take into consideration your abilities and the abilities of everyone in your group. Put together a trip plan with your planned location and who will be with you, and leave it with someone who is not going on the trip with you. Have an emergency plan in case you or anyone in your party becomes injured. Consider carrying a personal locator beacon in the event that your cell phone cannot get a signal if you're lost or if the battery dies. Keep your phone in airplane mode while hiking to preserve the battery. Check the weather before you head out on your adventure. Be prepared to seek shelter in the event of severe weather, snow, rain, lightning, or flash flooding. Wear appropriate gear. Pack enough water and snacks, and possibly extra if you have room, in case you get lost or it takes longer to navigate a trail. Carry bug spray as the insects on trails can be plentiful. If you're planning to camp in a national park, visit nps.gov for a more detailed information on what to take with you. Before we continue, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors.
They are the families of the missing in America, and they're desperately searching for answers.
Somebody knows something.
I'm Josh Mankiewicz. Join me for Season 3 of Missing in America. Listen carefully, because just one small detail might allow you to solve a mystery.
We have seen miracles happen.
Dateline, Missing in America. Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
Are you looking to level up your writing or learn a new skill? Whether you focus on nonfiction or are more inclined to creative writing, or want to learn how to put together a digital portfolio of your writing, Wow Women on Writing can help. Interested in podcasting? Check out a digital course I created called You Can Start a Podcast. During this pre-recorded webinar, you will learn the benefits of creating your own podcast, materials you need to get started, how to develop content that will keep listeners coming back for more, and ways your podcast can create supplemental income. I'll share examples of different types of podcasts, how to decide on a format, ways to handle the technology necessary for creating a podcast, how to develop your first few episodes, promotion and monetization ideas, and ways you can repurpose your podcast content. All written materials and resources are provided by me. I'll also give you a handout with information discussed in the webinar, along with suggestions for a few different types of podcasts to explore. Best of all, this webinar only costs $30. You can find it by going to wow-womenonwriting.com and clicking on the Classroom tab. I'll post a link in the show notes. Here's your friendly PSA that if you haven't been using the skincare products from SkinErin, you might be doing it wrong. But it's never too late to do the right thing. Here are a few ways you can make the most out of the skincare products from SkinErin. In addition to cleansing your face, the pre-cleanse oil also makes an excellent shaving balm, reducing irritation and protecting your skin. In addition to moisturizing your face, the hydrating beauty oil is a savior for scorched summertime hair. Just massage a few drops onto your fingertips and work into those dry ends to quickly replenish your locks. And if you happen to linger too long in the sun without reapplying sunscreen, hey, it happens. Use the Perfecting Night Oil, which will dramatically increase healing from a burn with its high levels of antioxidants. Go ahead and treat yourself with 10% off your order using my code MissingCarolinas10. I'll put a link in the show notes for you. And now, let's get back to the show. Even people that live in this part of the state are not immune to the dangers of exploring it alone. The next missing person I want to tell you about grew up in the area he went missing in, and had even worked in the tree and shrubbery industry for most of his life. On October 6, 2021, 48-year-old Avery County resident Michael Sean Hartley met up with a friend in the town of Spruce Pine to dig ginseng. When it started to rain, he got separated from his friend, who decided to leave the area. Michael stayed. He was an avid outdoorsman and hunter. On October 14th, after not hearing from him, Michael's family filed a missing persons report in Avery County. Because the police in Avery County knew Michael was last known to have been seen in Mitchell County, they had authorities in Mitchell County request a court order from a local Superior Court judge to pull Michael's cell phone records. This took several days, but it allowed police to pinpoint the last location of his cell phone. They began searching the watershed area of Spruce Pine and located Michael's body in Beaver Creek, just a few miles from where he had grown up. At the time, the Mitchell County Chief Deputy said there was no indication of foul play in his death, nor were there any wounds to his body or signs of trauma. On December 23, 2023, 71-year-old Barry Hertel of Elks Park went missing after driving to the local Lowe's home improvement store in Banner Elk on an errand. When the retired truck driver who worked part-time at a local Lowe's Foods grocery store didn't return home, the Avery County Sheriff's Office issued a missing endangered alert for the man because he was likely suffering from a cognitive impairment. He had been driving a 2019 silver Subaru Forester. 3 days later, officers responded to a call about a car in the river off NC 194 near Sam Eller Road. They found a partially submerged car and discovered the body of a man deceased inside. Officials later confirmed the man to be Barry Hertel. They investigated the incident as a single-vehicle car accident. On March 28, 2015, 30-year-old Justin Glenn Miller left the home of his parents on John Sparks Road in Bakersville, North Carolina. His mother was at home when he left, but she did not know where he was going or get a good look at the car that picked him up. He had a cell phone with him, but when officials checked its location, they couldn't get accurate results because it was a pay-as-you-go phone. He didn't have his wallet or prescription medication he took for seizures and pain. Justin has not been seen since, and his family is still holding out hope he will return someday. At the time he went missing, Justin stood 5 feet 11 inches tall and weighed approximately 230 pounds. He is a white male with brown hair and blue eyes. He has scars near his right eye from a debilitating car accident he was in that left him disabled. He was last seen wearing a hooded black denim coat, jeans, and brown work boots. Local search and rescue conducted a search of the woods all around the Miller home and beyond when he first went missing. I reached out to one of his sisters to verify the information in Justin's case, and she said they are still hoping for answers and have been devastated by his disappearance. If you have any information regarding the disappearance of Justin Miller, you can contact the Mitchell County Sheriff's Office at 828-688-3982. The last case I want to talk about involves a resident of Linville Falls, Lynn Keene, who was murdered because she trusted the wrong person. On July 30th, 2021, Lynn's daughter-in-law filed a missing persons report for the 70-year-old. Family told police they'd last seen her on June 14th. The post office at Linville Falls said she had last picked up her mail on July 16th. When law enforcement went to Lynn's house to check on her, they found her home secured but no sign of her. In early August, they found that car, a 2000 Lincoln Town Car, abandoned in Cherokee, located about 104 miles away from Linville Falls. It was locked, but the keys were found underneath the driver's seat. Lynn's debit card and Social Security card were also found inside. A witness told police he had seen a person with short gray hair sitting in the car earlier that morning. Working with the tribal police in Cherokee, investigators were able to find surveillance video that showed Lynn's car being driven by a woman. The next day, police secured search warrants needed to enter Lynn's home. They discovered blood evidence on the walls and ceiling of a bathroom. In the basement, they found a blue tarp held down by a large box. Underneath bags of concrete, they discovered the body of Lynn Keene encased in concrete. She was later identified by her dental records. An autopsy showed Lynn had died after receiving blunt force trauma to her head, as well as being strangled with a belt. Lynn's former caretaker, 53-year-old Elizabeth Carcerino from Goose Creek, South Carolina, was a suspect. Elizabeth was a friend of Lynn's family and was hired to help take care of Lynn after she injured herself during a fall and suffered a traumatic brain injury. But in June of 2021, Lynn had made the decision to fire Elizabeth. However, neighbors reported they had seen Elizabeth still living in Lynn's home until late July. According to news outlet WCNC Charlotte, during the time family members could not get a hold of Lynn, they had talked to Elizabeth, who told them a number of bizarre stories. She said after receiving a call from the Avery County Sheriff's Office, she'd been ordered to return a cat and pet carrier to Lynn's home. When she did that, she said a person she didn't recognize took the items inside. She said Lynn had traveled to Louisiana at one point, returning with an unknown man and woman. Elizabeth called Lynn's daughter-in-law on August 2nd and said she was on vacation in Maggie Valley, 16 miles east of Cherokee. She said she was on her way back to Linville Falls to get Lynn's banking information. Police finally caught up with Elizabeth Carcerino on August 6, 2021. She was charged with identity theft, larceny of a motor vehicle, financial card theft, and the murder of Lynn Keene. Another interesting fact in this case is that 2 80-pound bags of concrete were found outside of Lynn's home, leading police to believe Elizabeth had not acted alone. She was granted bail of $1.6 million. I have not seen any news of a plea deal or trial in this case, but I'll keep you posted if I learn anything new. This brings us to the conclusion of this episode of Missing in the Carolinas. If you enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor and give it a 5-star rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, so please like our pages and get started on a discussion of the missing people profiled on the show. Like what you hear? You can buy me a coffee over at buymeacoffee.com, Renee Robertson. Do you know of a missing persons case in North or South Carolina that you think should be covered? Email me at missinginthecarolinas@gmail.com with any details you can share. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, Wow Women on Writing, and the great programs and writing contests they have to support writers at wow-womenonwriting.com. Treat yourself to a skincare kit from SkinErin with my code MissingCarolinas10. Cover art for this podcast was designed by Macintosh Multimedia. Sound editing is provided by Daniel Robertson. Thanks so much for listening.